What is going on, everyone? Eric Rosen here. Normally, I announce myself as an astrologer because I do so much astrology. I do the horoscopes, right? I like to go into those quantum fields and talk about how to prepare us, but the list is long of the skills and abilities that I use to help people. And one of my favorite ones, and I'd say a patron client favorite, is Akashic Records channeling, or just channeling in general, like not needing the astrology, not needing a chart, not needing to connect to that per se in order to get information, both collectively but also individually too. And so I had a message come through recently where the Arcturians were wanting me to begin a transmission where it's basically prophecy work, getting us ready for 2027. I need to take a moment to say that, to really kind of dig into that. And because this is a big deal. We're ending a 400-year cycle of how humanity has existed and operated in human design, the right angle cross of planning and all the structures and hierarchies and intersecting lines and boxes, and the way that we move throughout those boxes connected in kind of like a chain link fence to get things done. That's ending. It's not here yet, so don't panic. There's time to heal. There's time to deal with our traumas, phobias, negative, ridiculous belief systems, and to really root into our beingness. Because with the astrology that's coming and this shifting into the rise of the sleeping phoenix, that is the new phase that starts in human design, we've got to be our own spiritual MacGyver, as I've been saying a lot, and rise to the occasion and kind of know how to just be. It's very intuitive, it's very individually structured in how we operate, but it's highly intuitive, and it has to be bold, courageous, and for those that don't feel up to the task, this brings up kind of the survival of the fittest that we haven't felt as a species for at least a few decades minimum, really longer if you take the fear porn out of it. But anyways, the first transmission that actually wanted to come through was specifically around the medical industry. It's so interesting, I don't watch a lot of news, and it was like, okay, they want me to talk about the medical industry and what to move to, and I didn't even know, but it makes sense for, as I'm speaking, we're headed into that Virgo South Node eclipse that deals with health big time, that those structures are failing, as I've been predicting for years, and a lot of others too, to give credit where credit is due. But it's how do we establish good health and well-being, but without creating too many expectations. Without further ado, I'm going to drop in and see what the channel has to say. So if you've not seen me do this before, close my eyes, I go in and I pull information from the cosmos, the Akashic Records, from sources that go beyond the realm of your normal day-to-day Virgo comprehension. I've been doing this since 2020 with a high level of accuracy, both individually and collectively. And, let's get in and see what we got. This is planning on this being more of a series. Is how it felt like it came through, like keep putting out the transmissions to get people ready for 2027. And also that, I got an intuitive message from a friend that said, hey, give the people what they need, not what they want. And so some of you may not want to hear this. Some people may not want to let go of the entertainment industry way of living, you could call it, where for all intents and purposes, people can be spiritually lazy and not do their work and just sit in these boxes in this chain link fence. But you know what's weird too? It's like some people think they're free and they're on the outside of the chain link fence and they might be on the other side, and vice versa. We may not even realize how free that we actually are now with this astrology. But this is meant to be educational. It's not meant to create fear, hysteria. Hopefully it's inspiring but truthful from my channel, without using a divination tool. I mean, I think it's important to always take things with a grain of salt anytime someone's channeling, because the level of control and surrender it takes to channel from the superconscious versus the subconscious that's connected to the individual's experience, it takes a lot of divine levels of support. So I'm going to call that in right now and channel from the highest level that I can. Put my spacesuit on, go up, and let's fucking go. Let's do this shit. Got the Egyptian fucking Syrian energy coming in. Okay. We see this one of the channel possesses the innate capacity to understand divine timing. This is not the exact right time to talk about the medical industry, but rather to talk about what's on everyone's minds as the challenges of humanity, of attention distraction, that mistimed messages go unheard. And so the messaging that wants to come through specifically is around the assassination, as it's been advertised, of Charlie Kirk. First, we want it to be stated that this one can be considered the anti-hero archetype. That this one cannot be categorized in the typical traditional understanding of being a hero or a villain. And therefore, this one was specifically chosen as a psyop to confuse the masses of the polarities of good and evil, of light and shadow. As many beings are waking up on the planet and are understanding how their shadow operates and shining a light on it, patterns of becoming behaviors, that people are starting to more courageously choose a better way of being, a better way of bringing light, which is information, into the world. We see that the most important thing that people can do at this time, as this process will pass, as it always does, and it being during eclipse season, is to really practice basics, grounding practices, eating clean, healthy foods, honoring the Virgo energies, conversations that are healthy, positive. Ideally, the conversations would be not focused on a mass narrative, as the more controlling shadow forces prefer that people focus on debates that pull them into lower frequencies of survival, lower frequencies of unbecoming behavior, which is to get other human beings attacking other human beings. In short, war. Breeding civil war, a psychological civil war that was initiated back in the 60s, a formula that's been working very well on the average person. However, this is a sophisticated, more Atlantean time period that is arriving on Earth. There's a brief window here for those to access their creator consciousness above the victim mentality of being subjected to mass propaganda and events in the world, to choose a different way of co-creation, especially in community, that it takes just one person to initiate and at least 2 to 3 people to agree to say yes to holding a boundary of not discussing negative information that is based upon propaganda. It's very common on a human level for beings to want to be in the know, to belong, to not rock the boat, to engage in conversations that are relatable. A prime example being those that talk about the weather, very basic mundane concept. And there's many beings that feel that they have a sophisticated opinion on the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's become an opportunity for them to speak their truth. However, the distortion for those speaking their truth is that there's an initiation in the debate of being right or wrong for many speaking their truth. There's an important recalibration for those to speak their personal truth that comes more rooted from a place that is not transitory, such as news, world events, but to rather speak their personal truth, their vulnerable personal truth, their heart opening, how they see and sense the world, how they feel about the world, not so much how they think, but how they feel and sense into what is going on, whether that's the collective grief or collective remorse. How did we get here? How did others arrive at, metaphorically, choosing to choke one another and even resorting to violence, as there's been much violence on the planet, especially since the ingress of Saturn and Aries. Very heavy levels of self-righteousness. In these groups of people, if they choose to refrain from engaging in the Charlie Kirk conversations and holding those boundaries, it forces a sort of divine contemplation by initiation, by intention of choosing not to engage in those world events that choose to keep people distracted and divided, to use the power of the mind that likes to ruminate, to actually ruminate on positive possibilities, creation, innovation, building a new earth school of sorts, an acceptance and embrace and understanding that during this Atlantean time period that is reminding us that Earth is in fact a school of thought form that becomes reality, that it's learning to work with our thoughts to bring into things into creation, amplified by the heart, the emotions, the frequency, the alignments, but starting with the mind of where it chooses, what it chooses to believe in. This new Earth School it's a reminder that we've come here to learn, we've come here to be, we've come here to see ourselves in the mirror. Who are we? What identity, spiritual avatar have we chosen? How are we choosing to operate? What is the operating system of the individual? Much of this personal stress and collective stress, but to make it manageable, focusing on the personal stresses that occur in life, or unhappiness, disdain, unpreferred ways of being, really is a deeper look into the unconscious operating systems of the individual, of how they're choosing their thought forms, choosing their beliefs. The more the individuals practice this in their alone time, to not get overwhelmed by the senses of the environment and the world and everything that's going on, to choose a sort of protection within themselves, to slowly move into their center, to move into their auric field, to clear their auric field of any debris, perhaps through the intention of waving the arms and clearing it, and other forms as well, even through forms of thought, of choice. The study of these unconscious operating systems, belief, thought patterns, allow the individuals to enter into conversation in groups that are more sophisticated and creative in thought form, as it's a bit of a coin flip with discussions of certain world events, depending on the event, such as Charlie Kirk, the coin flip of it possibly being a destructive conversation, initiating unnecessary triggers, plugging into collective unconscious thought beliefs that are not originated from the individual. So the individual understanding their beliefs, equipped to understanding their level of happiness, well-being, stress levels, is the most worthwhile endeavor, given that the individual feels safe, their needs are met, they have community connection, that there is a small layer of health that actually arrives in this too, that this is actually one of the first gates to good health, is understanding the self and healthy community connection, needs being met, the basic levels. And transmission. Well, there you have it. It felt like an example of maybe not what people want to hear, but what they need to hear. It's hard work in studying the mind and the beliefs, but when you have eclipses dealing with Pisces and Virgo, it is the study of the mind and the subconscious mind for better creation, balancing the spiritual and the material. So take heed and engaging in the negative debates right now. So love and appreciate you all. Thanks for listening. Next time a transmission wants to come in, I'll pop in.